Okay, let's talk about how to identify your anti ICA and actively repel them. So, the objective here is to learn how to recognize and clearly define who is not the right fit for your program so you can protect your time, your team's energy, your client results, and your reputation at scale. Now, you might be wondering why a lesson like this exists, and you cannot overlook the importance of this. Just as knowing your ideal client accelerates growth, knowing your anti ICA protects it. When you don't set clear boundaries around who your offer is not for, you unintentionally invite friction, refund requests, energy draining clients, and constant sales pressure to make it work for people who were never meant to be there. This lesson helps you spot the early warning signs of misalignment so you can filter out wrong fit leads before they ever enroll, saving time, energy, and profit down the line. I will say, sometimes folks slip through the cracks. That's okay. It happens. You didn't make a mistake. But this process is to help you catch them before they do get into the program, ideally, so you save the time, the headache, etc. So the mindset shift here is repelling is respectful. Repelling wrong fit clients actually isn't harsh. It's an act of service for everybody, including them. It protects your integrity, your community culture, and your client outcomes. When you filter clearly, everyone wins. You protect your bandwidth and brand, your team supports clients who are actually ready, and your best clients thrive in a stronger environment. So step number one is recognizing the cost of misalignment. So I wanted to kind of share this to really articulate what that looks like and how it shows up and what we've seen in our experience with this, especially in the early days of our business. So the ripple effect of misalignment and bad clients are refund requests and chargebacks. So clients who joined for the wrong reasons often realize it too late. Clearer filtering prevents buyer's remorse. Then there's also sales friction. Sales calls feel forced and they feel icky. Objections start to pile up and conversions drop because messaging attracts almost right people. Support overload. Misaligned clients require more handholding, drain energy, and slow progress for others. And then community energy drops. So a few off-fit personalities can actually shift the tone, discourage participation, or cause drama. Now, when and if this happens, getting rid of these people and removing them from your program is actually an act of service, again, to everybody involved. So I think that's important to remember. You don't have to keep out of alignment folks inside of your community. It is your community at the end of the day. Weekend testimonial. So when wrong fit clients don't get results, social proof suffers, even if your program is solid. And that makes you as the founder feel insecure about your offer, when in reality, it's not about your offer, as we've already talked about in the prior section. It's about attracting the wrong people. Therefore, they are not prepared to do the work and get results. And then they make it seem like it's an offer issue when it's really what? An ICA issue. So every wrong fit client creates ripple effects through your business. Understanding these costs is the first step to preventing them. Now, step two, identify your anti-ICA patterns. You want to look back at clients who struggled, stalled out, or created unnecessary friction. You're not judging people, you're identifying patterns that don't belong in your next stage of growth. You want to ask yourself, who required the most time or emotional energy without taking full responsibility? Who resisted the process, argued with coaching, or expected done-for-you results? And who wanted quick wins without putting in consistent effort? Who joined for reasons outside your transformation, i.e. chasing validation or shortcuts, and who caused tension in group calls or community spaces? Then from there, you want to list 3 to 5 clients or more or less if you have them who fit that description. And next to each name, write the top 1 or 2 traits that made them misaligned, okay? We want to start gathering that intel and that information. Step 3 is translate red flags into filters. So now you want to take those traits and turn them into practical filters so you can recognize warning signs before enrollment. So, anti-ICA trait, they expect done-for-you delivery. New filter or boundary, you want to clarify in your marketing assets and in your sales process that your program teaches. It does not do the work for you. It is done with you, not done for you. Unwilling to be coached. Ensure there are questions in your application or sales calls to test openness or feedback, which you naturally will do inside of the discovery section of the sales scripting process. So you are going to cover yourself there, but it is important to understand that process. Seeks overnight results. Reinforce in your messaging that transformation takes implementation. It takes time, right? And even in the way that you speak about what you do in your content headlines and topics, ensure that you're always speaking to it from a realistic lens, not a, for lack of better terms, get rich quick kind of situation. And emotionally reactive or blaming. Build in sales call questions about personal responsibility. Then, negative community energy. You want to include culture expectations in your onboarding materials like client code of conduct inside of your terms of enrollment. This can be a short section. You always want to consult a lawyer when you're putting this together, but it could just echo what you expect to see from your clients when they're in your program. And what are these sort of rules and boundaries in terms of the client code of conduct inside of your program? You can obviously, list out those values and those boundaries and etc. You can also use something like the ICA assistant to help you create some ideals or some values that you want to make sure that are implemented in your client code of conduct as well. And again, obviously have it looked over by a lawyer before you have it finalized. So the action here is you want to create a short not for list. So 3 to 5 bullet points that you can easily insert or include in sales or marketing materials where and when you feel it's necessary. So for example, this program is not for you if you're looking for quick fixes, done for you services, or aren't ready to implement. That's a line that I would say inside of a webinar or a VSL. So, and you can say it in many different places, but saying it out loud does actively repel the wrong people, which you do want to do because it makes room for more of the right people. Now, step 4, integrate repelling language into your messaging, as we were talking about. So you repel by being specific, not by being rude. So every piece of content, sales copy, and conversation is a chance to clarify who will not thrive inside your program. So some examples. In your emails or videos, if you're looking for overnight results, this probably isn't for you. On sales calls, this program works best for people ready to take action consistently, even when it's uncomfortable. And in community guidelines, you can say we protect a culture of personal accountability and celebration of progress. So step 5 is observe how it strengthens every other pillar. Filtering wrong fit clients has a direct positive impact across your entire business. Let's say it's leads and marketing. Stronger messaging clarity attracts higher quality leads. Sales, conversations feel lighter. Conversions rise because expectations are aligned. Delivery and operations, fewer support tickets, less emotional labor, and a happier community. Finance, reduced refunds and better profitability. And team, less burnout and more focus on clients who take action. So, let's talk about tool support. You do not need a specific tool for this lesson. You can do this all without a tool, but if you'd like to analyze patterns from client transcripts or notes or sales calls, you can use the ICA assistant to identify repeated friction phrases or resistance cues. So there are some example prompts that I've listed here that you can very much so just copy and paste. And any of the ones like this one where it says analyze these sales calls and transcripts and help me spot patterns between the clients who struggled or required the most support. So these would be those transcripts from people that were out of alignment, people maybe you didn't even want to invite in or didn't invite in. You would want to compile them into one document, upload them into the IC Assistant, and use this prompt to have it analyze those cues. Then if you're keeping notes, like we talked about earlier on your clients that you don't want to work with. So writing down the notes and traits of the people who are misaligned. If you're keeping those notes, you can use the prompt and say, based on these notes I've compiled about my most out of alignment clients, what traits or behaviors show up most often in misaligned clients? The funny thing is about this that I find it's actually easier to name the misaligned clients often than it is the clients who are stellar clients. So just making that list, keeping those notes, and using the IC Assistant to support you with that process will be very helpful. You can say turn these anti-ICA traits into specific filtering statements or application questions, which we'll talk about later. So these are all great prompts that you can use with the ICA Assistant to implement this. Now, the key takeaways here are repelling the wrong people is as important as attracting the right ones. Misaligned clients cost far more than they pay. And every refund, sales struggle, or support overload can usually be traced back, truly, I mean this, to ICA boundaries. Oftentimes, whenever people come to me and say, I'm having issues with overload in terms of my community support, I usually go, tell me about the people that are causing the most problems. And generally it's because they're not the right fit for your program. They don't match the 3 factors of your ICA, which is why we're so focused on always making sure that we have the most accurate depiction of your ICA. And then clear filters strengthen every downstream pillar. Like I said, marketing, sales, delivery, operations, and finance. If you don't have those filters, they weaken every downstream pillar. And protecting your ecosystem by stating boldly who your program isn't for is honestly, it's an act of service to yourself, your team if you eventually have one, and your client community. Okay? All right. I will see you in the next one.